Hello, and welcome to the Guilbault Girls Show, where you will have the opportunity to hear from mothers, fathers, siblings, and individuals themselves about their journey of living with a disability. I know, it's called Guilbault Girls, but we have a bonus for you as we get the Guilbault boys to interview some of the dads and siblings and get their perspectives too. We'll also have special guests from time to time to share the many resources that are available to those living with a disability and their families. So get ready to laugh, smile, cry, maybe even get a little angry when you hear some of these stories of their day-to-day struggles. But let's not forget their many triumphs. As they say, it takes a village. And if it weren't for our village, we wouldn't be where we are today. So join us. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Guilbault Girls Show. I'm your host, Karen Guilbault, and today's guest is DJ Nicholson, educational mentor, trainer, inclusion specialist, and founder of Inclusiveology. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Perfect. So Inclusiveology's mission is to guide and support parents and educators in creating inclusive opportunities for every child to learn, engage, and grow. Inclusiveology supports inclusive practices through mentoring, coaching, and professional development, including every child in learning. So welcome, DJ, and thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's dive in. Can you share with us what your background is, what inspired you to launch Inclusiveology, and what it offers?
Okay, so I'm going to go all the way back to my childhood.
Yes, absolutely.
And where we start. So when I was in the first grade, this was back in the early to mid 70s, we had a group of children that were coming out of a state institution. This was up in Massachusetts. I was born and raised there. Okay. So I was in the first grade. These children were coming out of a state institution, and they were in a separate class in my elementary school. And the only time we would see them was on the playground. And that kind of, piqued my interest of like, who are these kids and where are they coming from and why do we only see them on the playground? And they were very sheltered and completely excluded. This was 1974, 75. Mm-hmm. So, fast forward, after I graduated from undergrad, it was 1990, and I was working in a day habilitation program for adults with disabilities. And these were adults that were coming out of this same state institution that children were coming out of like 17 years prior. So we're still segregating, we're still excluding, we're still going on outings, we're still using all of that really negative verbiage that we were using for people and children with disabilities. Mm-hmm. So really, after that, I made a huge shift in when I went to grad school, because when I went to grad school, this was in Michigan, the way that people approached people with disabilities was completely different. The mindset was very different. There was a positive focus. There was the intention that everyone has capabilities. We just have to find out what they are, and everyone has an opportunity to be part of community and grow. And it was this incredible shift for me. And so really since then, I spent 20 years in the classroom, mostly as a special education teacher, working with varying different types of exceptionalities. And then I moved on to be an instructional coach and a trainer in my local district down here in Florida, where I really got to see firsthand what some of the struggles kind of were across the board. Mm-hmm. And I say across the board locally when I was in that position, but then when I moved into my position with Inclusiveology, it became so much more global and national that we have, a bit of a crisis when it comes to how we support children with learning differences and unique abilities. So what I did is, there was a turning point in my district position where I realized that what my focus was, the focus that comes from my heart and my kind of life passion, mm-hmm. is really making sure that kids, especially with those with really unique situations, get included in learning. And so I took an early retirement and I founded Inclusiveology. And really what the goal is to include every child in learning, because every child can learn, every child can be included. We just have to figure out how to do that, because it's not a one size fits all. It's not, inclusion is not simply putting a child in a general education classroom and just assuming that all is well. That there has to be a plan for inclusion. And I know that we'll talk about that like later on in our conversation. So that's kind of, in a long story, how I kind of got where I am.
Yeah. We have a friend, and he's on the spectrum. And when he was younger, his classroom, special ed classroom, air quotes, was in the janitor's closet at school.
Right.
So this was way back when, and his son has autism, and it's amazing to see how far we've come, but we still have a long way to go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, one of the things that I realized, from 1974 to the early 90s to now, we're still having a lot of those same conversations. We're still seeing kids in self-contained programming. We're seeing kids in separate schools. We're still having that exclusion. And I do feel like, those schools that are attempting inclusion and then say, well, that doesn't work. It didn't work. They're missing pieces.
Yeah. So tell us about your parent coaching and mentoring program, who it's for and what it benefits. What's the benefit?
So my parent coaching program, I love supporting parents because parents are kind of the first line of defense, so to speak, but they're also children's first teacher, and parents really and truly do know their child best and have so much to bring to the table. I think that parents are the most important critical piece of the IEP team. And parents truly have to see themselves as that critical piece and not as an outsider. It's not the IEP team and then the parent comes in. No. So with my parent coaching and mentoring, I really help empower parents to understand what's possible, all the different things that are available within a school already without having to spend thousands of dollars. A lot of what I hear is, oh, well, the school says it's too expensive. Well, it's not, like things like speech to text and text to speech and extensions through Google and Microsoft and just things available in the classroom. Those are not extra costs. They're just resources that are not widely known enough. So parents and I, we take a look at the IEP or the 504 plan, and we look at, okay, do all of these accommodations and supports truly match what your child needs? And is there something else that we could suggest that might make learning more accessible, make your kid more independent? And then also, this is really important, is to make sure that the goals in the IEP and the specially designed instruction and the present levels are all connected and all match and are all designed in a way that is going to kind of maximize that instruction for targeted deficits and skills that are missing. And then, if there's not inclusion, to have some conversation about inclusion. And so one of my most favorite stories just happened recently. It happened last week. I'm working with a family in Michigan. And I'm down in Florida. And so I attended the IEP meeting virtually. And so we had lots of conversations because her child, who's in middle school, was essentially in self-contained programming. So in middle school, there were, 7 periods in a day. She was self-contained for all but 2. And she went out for band, and then they let her go to science. So we worked through, with the school, what that would look, what instruction should look like when you modify that instruction, because that's where she was, what it looked like to modify instruction. Everyone got more comfortable with the fact that they were able to provide modifications and be able to adjust the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the most recent IEP, when she moves to her next grade level, we've had a complete shift in her programming, where now she will only be in like a self-contained situation for 2 blocks in her day. And that is only for the skills that she struggles with the most. And the rest of the day, she is either in full-time gen ed or she is included in small group instruction with typical peers. And so it just to see the shift from 2 in and 5 out to 5 in and 2 out. I mean, just awesome. But it's a matter of having the conversations and knowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of knowing. And this mom said to me, you showed us the on-ramp for her learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, when I talk to parents and we start with where their child is and where we want them to go,
mm-hmm. That's awesome. And what types of tools and strategies do you offer?
So we focus a lot on assistive technology. And assistive technology really it's not always high tech. It's not always computers and laptops and iPads. It's what are all of the things that help your child with learning. So it might be some high tech tools, but it might be things as simple as, graphic organizers or a magnifier or visual schedules or something else that's going to help with independence in the classroom, so we can alleviate the need for another adult to kind of hover over. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that with paras and teachers. There's that kind of hovering over. I put that in the category of enabling. So we want to stop that enabling, but move to a place where we can grow independence and teach kids how to use the tools that they need. So in one-to-one coaching and mentoring, everything that I do is specially designed. So it's not a one-size-fits-all coaching program. So, I meet with the parents, we get to know each other, and then I always do a free consultation. We take a look at the IEP, and then we figure out from there, okay, if we're going to work together, what's our focus going to be? So it needs to be individualized. And so it could vary from, we just work through the sections of the IEP to give parents a deeper understanding of what's included in there. Or it could be that I'm doing reading assessments for their child because those have never been done. So it really depends on the needs of the child and the needs of the family. The biggest piece that I offer is to empower parents so they can advocate for themselves, and they know what to ask for, but they know why. They know why they're asking.
Very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the think tank workshops that you offer, and how often do you offer those?
Ooh, okay. So I have a think tank workshop coming up. Actually, it starts tomorrow. My think tank style workshops are meant to do a deep dive into what your child currently has in place and how can parents learn more about what might be possible in terms of learning tools. So with a think tank, it's usually a much smaller group, which I love. So I always tell parents, bring your IEP, bring your 504 plan. You're not going to share it with anyone, but you want it as a resource. And so we do a little, there's like a little bit of instruction, a little bit of training, so to speak, but it's like a digestible bite. And then we work in breakout rooms, we do collaborating, and we just have these open and very honest conversations about what's happening or what isn't happening. And the beauty of the think tank workshops is they're not recorded. They're not sent out to the masses. So it really becomes more of like an intimate experience, which I think is important. I offer workshops every month. I do at least one a month. But sometimes it's nice to do a think tank where it is smaller and we have a chance to really talk about specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm assuming too, the individuals that are in the courses can connect outside.
Yeah.
With one another too. So it's like another support network, if you will.
Well, and community is hugely important. Community, not to crab and complain.
Right.
But community to grow and support and share ideas. I have a Facebook group that's private, that's really designed for that. There's no crabbies in there. There's none of that. We want like positivity, good resources. Let's move forward and grow.
Yep, that's awesome. So I also love the section on your website about the school-based coaching and training that you do, where you listed the 3 questions. We can go ahead over them. So the one is, what makes a classroom inclusive? Can you walk us through what each letter stands for?
Sure. So in order to be what I consider meaningfully inclusive, there's 9 different pieces, which is how I came up with the word inclusive. Actually, there's more than 9 because some stand for more than one thing. But you have to have all the pieces. So you can't just create like an inclusive master schedule and then not support the folks that are going into the classrooms for co-teaching and support. We're not, we have to be able to support all the different pieces. Right. So the letters, and I'm sure that I have these memorized. I is for instructional accommodations and modifications, because those are different. We talk about that. N is the need for generalization. So anything that's taught in small group or in specially designed instruction has to be generalized back to the classroom so it makes sense for kids. C is for collaborative teaching and community. Important to have community, important to have everyone on board, including obviously leadership. It comes from there, but also, anybody that's part of that school campus, you have to know that your entire community is inclusive. It's not just a couple classrooms in 2nd grade or a classroom in 4th grade. You have an inclusive school. And the, collaborative teaching is important to know which of those models works the best, for each school year. The L is for learning outcomes, because even if you have a child with modified instruction, or you have a child that's significantly below grade level, you still have to know what your learning outcome is. So it's knowing where you want to be. So kind of thinking with the end in mind, where do you want to be? And then working backwards from there and filling in, okay, we're starting here, but how do we get over here? So that's important. The U is use of assistive technology, which is my favorite thing to talk about because it's so missing in so many different situations. The S is for scheduling and specially designed instruction. Scheduling, of course, to be able to maximize all of your support folks that you have on campus. And then scheduling, designing your schedule in a way, like I said, maximizes your people on campus. And then specially designed instruction to know what that should look like and what it absolutely should not look like. The I is for innovative assessments. So sometimes, we've got kids that struggle with online assessments. They struggle with the pressure of having assessments that are presented in only one way. Okay. So how do we get creative and innovative in determining what they know? Because that's the most important thing, is if kids can show you what they know, then you're capturing where the actual learning is taking place. So that is huge, to know how to be creative in those assessments. And also how to do assessments kind of on the fly. How can you capture what a student actually knows by not doing like a formal assessment time?
Yes.
How can you walk by a desk and be like, oh, he has got that. He's got it. The V is for visuals and routine. Visuals for learning are huge. Visuals for structure and figuring out how to stay focused, how to stay on task, learning what's next. A lot of times that's not even just for kids with disabilities and differences, it's for all kids. So they know exactly what's coming up next, to understand the time frame of things. And then the E is for environmental management. So how do we arrange environments, especially in the classroom, so everyone can move about the classroom as independently as possible? So it's not necessarily making sure that there's room for wheelchairs or walkers. It really is, if you have a kiddo that is wiggly and has difficulty sitting still and doesn't want to sit in the blue plastic chair and is like tipping over in his desk and he's doing all, he's just living his own little dream in his blue plastic chair, we have to give him another option.
Right.
Of where he's going to be focused and learning the best. So we might, under the guise of environmental arrangement, we might have chairs, we have bean bags to sit in, places to stand, spots marked off on the floor where kids can choose to sit on the floor. And I've had conversations with teachers about how they're so frustrated that, Marcos won't sit in the chair. And I said, well, but here's the thing. You can either get him to sit in the chair or learn what you're teaching. Yeah. But you're not going to get both. Because Marco's not that kid. So let him be someplace else. So I always like the idea of giving children like multiple places to sit. Yeah, but again, that's in terms of looking at all the different inclusive pieces of a school and building that community, that has to be taught.
Right.
You can't just willy-nilly say to kids, hey kids, sit anywhere you want.
Right.
There's a purpose to it. And what, to know the whys.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your child learns differently or has a disability, how does their classroom learning look? That was question number 2 that was on your.
So in an ideal world, their learning looks really similar to everyone else's, because everyone should have the tools that they need to be the most successful. But in a case where that isn't ideal, then, if a kid has a learning difference, they know where to go to get the tools that they need. They know where the different stacks of graphic organizers are. They're given a slant board or an adaptive pencil holder in order to be the most successful. So you see tools and other things available to them, whether it's in their space or someplace else in the classroom, but they have the ability to kind of go up and get them as they need to. But there's also that flexibility in how they work within the classroom. Are they working by themselves? Are they given an opportunity to work with a partner and have that peer support? Do they have a chance, like we talked about before, to get up from their seat and go work in a quieter spot in the classroom? Is it structured like that so they have the flexibility to do that?
And then your last question on there was, how can inclusion for children with disabilities and learning differences be defined?
So in a meaningfully inclusive environment, you are seeing kindness, you are seeing support, you are seeing people-friendly and disability-friendly language. We're not calling out children as those kids or your kids. We're not eye rolling. We are looking at all children as a whole group, but we're also looking at individuals, and we're appreciating their uniqueness. We're giving them their authenticity, and we're letting them show what they know and be comfortable in a way that best makes sense for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. All right, well, here. So I know that you're based in Florida, which we're going to be there June 16th to July 3rd. So we definitely have to get together.
Yes.
Yes. And we'll do lunch. So I'm excited about that. So
where are you going to be?
Right in Newport Richie.
My gosh, that's right.
Yeah. So we're going to, we're going back to my mom. So get to meet Faith too.
Yeah.
So I know that you're based in Florida, but you also work with families and educators all over the states. So what does that look like? And is it mostly through Zoom, phone calls, or do you actually travel sometimes to do any in-person work with them? How does that work?
If I were working with a school or a district over a long period of time, I would be traveling to them. But all the parent work that I do, if it's local, we meet in person, but otherwise it's all on Zoom. And it works incredibly well. We can do deep dives and we can share screens and get into all of the deep business of things.
Yeah, I really think that Zoom just opened up the doors to so many new things. As much as we complain about it, it really has opened up the doors for so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So how can one contact you to get more information?
So they can reach me on my website at inclusiveology.com, and that's inclusive with an E and then ology. They can also reach me by email at dj@inclusiveology.com, and I'm really on every social platform. I also have a Facebook group called The Collective for parents of children with disabilities, and then I have a Facebook business page for Inclusiveology.
So in order to be in the Facebook group, do they have to be one of your clients or that you're working with, or do you let other people in, or how does that work?
Oh, I let other people in. I mean, my thought is, the more the merrier. And I have people in that group that are just simply there as supporters. There are other, inclusive professionals. There's teachers in the group that just like to add their 2 cents of like creativity and positivity, but it's mostly parents. And so, it's just a matter of you can find it on Facebook. You can click and just answer the questions. And, as long as as long as you're a parent, a teacher, or someone that wants to be supportive of this inclusive type community, you're in.
That's awesome. So I'll have to definitely get all the information and the link to that. I'll put in the show notes too for people to definitely get into that. So I also wanted to share that you have an incredible blog. Did you want to share anything about that? I love your blog. I'm like, look at this and look at that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so here's the funny thing about my blog. I love my blog because I love to write.
Okay.
Love to write. I've always loved to do that. But you know what? I haven't been adding to my blog lately because what I'm doing is, I don't think I shared this with you. I broke my foot. 8 weeks ago. Oh, wow. And so since then, I have been chronicling. I started like day one, and I'm calling it DJ's personal quest for accessibility. And so because I've had to learn, number one, how to make my own home accessible, but then like looking at accessibility features out in the community, in my own home, and I've learned a lot, like what are some really unique things that I've had to do for myself that would help in my, supporting of parents and children. So I have not included any of these in my blog. I will at some point. But I've been putting them on all of my social media.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're just like little story bites. But I'll at some point condense them all and capture them in my blog. So thanks for reading.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So is there anything else that you would like to add or any advice that you would like to give before we wrap things up?
So one thing that kind of comes up a lot in conversations, and then just, what might be out there in the news, depending on where you live, is teacher shortages, teacher turnover. And, I've heard from some parents, like, my child has a brand new teacher. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to write an IEP. I went to the IEP meeting. It was really uncomfortable. And so, I do tell parents, because our educational system is certainly in flux right now. There's a lot of movement happening. Some of it is really positive, but some, when it comes to, kids with learning differences and unique abilities, there's a I don't know what to do. And so, when we're losing veteran teachers and those that have been around for a while and have those really big toolboxes, they're being replaced by either brand new teachers, and yay for them, because they're awesome and open to learning all kinds of things. But then they might also be replaced by people that are not necessarily certified or have the right tools to be able to do and know all the things you need to do in order to support, kids with lots of different abilities. So I always say to parents, have all of the knowledge and be empowered and be ready to advocate for the things that are right, and know that you provide so much knowledge to the IEP team.
Yeah.
And you provide so much value because you know your child. And so that's why, it's so important for me to do parent coaching and mentor parents kind of through all this, because, you just don't know what you don't know. And as we talk and brainstorm and dive deep into things, and, when we work one-to-one, we get personal. We talk about, bathroom issues and all kinds of things. But, for parents to just be aware that you are the most knowledgeable person for your child. Sure.
We used to, back when Faith was young, she was probably 4 years old, is when I got involved with the ARC. In our chapter, and we did parent advocacy classes that we had a grant for. So we did that for 6 years. So I used to help facilitate that. And then I sat on, I was the chair for the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee for 2 years. And had it not been for all of that, Faith probably would have never gotten as far as she has. And then just being able, being the chair and every month meeting, because we worked with the special education director, and we always had the, different people come in and speak and that kind of stuff. And even at the meetings, I always had a program manager there, but even at the time, our special ed director, she actually came to some of Faith's meetings, and it wasn't a bad thing. It was a good thing, because we were all trying to wrap our heads around what can we do for her. And, and we had such a good team, but sometimes bringing other people in to help is always good. Now I know that every state, I believe, is required to have one, but they call them something different. So here in Maryland, it's called the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. Do you know what it's called in your area?
So we have an ESE advisory council.
Okay.
We also have ARC. ARC doesn't have a whole lot of involvement with our public system down here.
Yeah. And there's several chapters around here. So ours has the family support services, where a lot of them don't. But they always had an ARC employee come to the school advisory board meetings, and everybody and then we had Parents Place of Maryland, which is another one that would host classes and stuff. But yeah, that's why I've always told people, always surround yourself with people that are knowledgeable and of going, or walking the walk before you, because
Right.
Otherwise I would have been lost if it wasn't for the ones that came before me, and connecting with so many other people. So,
now that I think about it, we also have the Family Network on Disabilities.
okay.
So they're a big support. And it's so important to have the conversations, that if you haven't had conversations, you've got to start. You've got to start having conversations and start reaching out to people to know what's possible, because what you're told might not be what your child needs.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I'm so excited that you agreed to be on the show. And before we wrap things up, I always, as a token of appreciation, I gift my guests with a word. So I hand stamp a word, one letter at a time, and with a hammer, into the token. And because words are important, they can be powerful. They can inspire us to do great things. They can be a great reminder, and especially with the distractions of the world today. So I want to know if you would be willing to share your word that you choose and why.
So my word is nurture. Nurture is a word that it's actually the word that I've chosen to bring into this year, because it was important for me to be able to nurture all of the pieces of myself. So nurturing my business and nurturing my health. Interestingly enough, with the broken foot, I've done more nurturing than I thought I would be doing. But just, nurturing those around me and caring for those around me, because when I'm able to care for myself and take care of myself authentically, then I'm able to also do that for other people. That I can be present and I can show up as myself. And that always feels good. So this year was a year of really looking at what that word looks across the board, and then kind of sharing that out with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yay, I'm excited. Okay, so I will have all of her information in the show notes. And until next time, thanks everybody. And thanks so much, DJ. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us as we spread awareness through our personal stories and the many resources shared. You can help us by joining our village simply by sharing our show to the masses. If you would like to support the Guilbault Girls on another level, click on the link in the show notes to make a donation in any amount. Add your address and you'll receive a hand-stamped token with the word village on it in appreciation. Be sure to subscribe to our Guilbault Girls podcast and YouTube show, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Guilbault Girls. Till next time.